Welcome back to the Proven Waltz podcast. The Proven Waltz logo is no more. I finally got everything fixed. Well, I didn't get it fixed. I was configuring I'm using a PC now, not a laptop. I've used a laptop all year, but I've had enough of it. So, yeah, I got it configured. But anyways, enough of that. Let's introduce our guests. First of all, we're doing our Classic 3 today. How are you, Viz, firstly, in Utah?
I'm doing great. Very excited for what's coming up in the lower divisions for sure. Now that we can rest assured knowing that no Libertadores final will be interrupting La Fiesta de los Pueblos, called the Copa Peru final group stage. So, I'm excited to see that those things are moving forward, and also a little surprised that we're having transfer rumors so early. I know that we're going to be talking about that here shortly.
Indeed. Now, before we go on to the transfer rumors, let's introduce our other panelist, Peter Galindo up in Toronto. How are you, Peter?
I am good. There is snow on the ground. I'm very sad. I hate the cold, and life sucks right now for me. So, first world problems.
It's been really hot here. And who said first world has to have snow?
You know,
what is Australia? I mean, Australia sometimes gets snow, but Brisbane doesn't get snow. Florida doesn't get snow.
I've had a theory. Okay, will you stop? I get it. Hot countries don't get snow. Jesus. Okay, I have a theory. I feel like people who move to Canada or parts of the United States, your tax, quote unquote, your immigration tax is dealing with the cold for 6 months of the year. Like, okay, you leave your country where maybe things weren't so good for you. You come to a place where maybe you have a better chance of a better life, but you're going to freeze your balls off for 6 months.
Yeah, I mean, we could also mention that you need to integrate into another culture and learn another language and work crappy jobs. But let's focus on the cold.
I think it's the cold, Biz. I think it's the cold mostly.
Yeah.
I'm teasing. I'm teasing.
We have a long pod today, so we're not here to talk about snow. We're here to talk about Peruvian football. And let's begin. So before we go to the semifinals preview, which we promised you to say, we kind of decided something last minute. Transfer rumors, as Christopher said, are starting to pop up. Some teams are starting to already buy players, which kind of ludicrous because a lot of things, we have like a month before the window opens and a lot of things can change. But I think that we should talk about some of those. Now, I'm going to get the list here. I guess the first one we could talk about is the resurgence of Ayacucho FC, because this season we've been used, or the last 3 years rather, we've been used to an Ayacucho that's been fighting relegation constantly, even since the end of Intigas, because Intigas in the middle stages of its existence, they were in the Sudamericana, and they even played Atlético Nacional at one point and lost, I think 4 or 5-0 in aggregate. I can't remember the exact. I think it was 5-0 in aggregate. But anyways, they look like they have their eyes set for Sudamericana next season, because they've apparently beaten Carlos Preciado. They've already beating boys to Carlos Preciado, I should say rather, and they're going for Jeremias Bogado, which you could say it's disappointing that Jeremias Bogado is not going to a bigger team, but you got to give Ayacucho credit for getting him if it is so much is true. Preciado's a great player, and he can even play in the wings too. So that allows room for Montes, who's renewed his contract, who has had a very good year, to play in the middle, and Preciado have him on the right, on the left. So that could work very well. Although I do think Preciado is better as a 9. So what do you guys think of these transfers? I'll let you go first, Peter.
Well, it's a statement of intent. That they want to build on what they did, especially in the second half of the season, and by reinforcing the squad, especially out wide, up front as well. They were solid enough defensively, I think, at the end to maybe not worry about that too much. I just think in terms of firepower, will they be able to keep up with even the likes of Muni or let's say Huancayo ends up bolstering their squad, which it looks like they already have with one signing in particular, which we'll get onto later, and get into the Sudamericana spots. The thing is, and we were having this conversation in the WhatsApp group, and I'm kind of maybe taking Viz's points away from him, but it's one thing to make these signings. I mean, people do get excited by the shiny new toys and whatnot, but is it actually going to lead to on the pitch success? Because Ayacucho credit to them. They're trying to raise the bar a little bit. They don't just want to be relegation battlers and scrape their way to safety. They want to maybe push for something better. But the question is, will they kind of be able to in the end, even with these signings in the squad? I'm not so sure about that.
All right, and Viz, what do you think?
Well, to anyone that's not very familiar with the history of Ayacucho FC, I can only describe I can only compare their history to the life of, or the evolutionary life of a cockroach, in that, like, no matter what has happened in Peruvian soccer the last 30 years, somehow this team has reinvented itself multiple times and survived. Okay? Their goal seems to always be, their mentality is always just survive. Whatever you do, survive. Which is not to say that this is not the beginnings of a project. This is not the beginnings of something interesting. Like I would agree with Peter's points that, shiny new toys. Well, there could be some improvement next season, but I think that, to take him serious, I would have to give him 2 or 3 seasons, because this has always been the pattern, right? They just make enough money, maybe hold on to like a Sudamericana slot, and kind of have a mediocre season. Sometimes fight relegation, but most of the times are content with like that 8th place or 7th place finish in the overall aggregate table to give them that Sudamericana slot. But then again, with sports teams, it's been the tendency lately, not that you go out there and make the 15, you buy 15 new players, right? Unless you're, maybe Real Madrid, but usually you buy 2 or 3 each season, and by 3 or 4 years, you have enough of a team that can actually, fight for something. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, and I'm going to assume that these moves, like buying Carlos Preciado and Jeremias Bogado, mean just that they're starting to think, maybe we would get more fans if we won titles. So therefore, let's start to do that and see where it goes.
Now, I like to think Ayacucho as a club or an attractive club for a player, at least a Peruvian player, or a player who's established themselves in Peru, like Preciado. So the reason I say this is because they don't seem to have many administrative problems. They seem quite stable. When was the last time we've heard Ayacucho have an administrative error? It's been a while since I even asked one of my friends at the Chalaca, and he said it's been a while as well. We seem to agree with it. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure they have no points deduction this year or last year, and we never hear stories of them not being paid. Whereas a team like Sport Rosario Binacional, who are too important to Limeños, we always hear stories of them not paying their players. So
yeah, but that's exactly the point. I think that you have teams like Cristal and Alianza that are the Coca-Colas of the world, and then you have Ayacucho, who are like the U.S.-backed government bonds, like boring. They have a safe investment, and people are, sponsors throw money at them, and players go there because it's safe, not because they want any glory or fame. So
maybe the location isn't the most attractive, because Ayacucho, while not the most remote, isn't exactly the most well-known area in Peru either. It's no Cusco, it's not Arequipa, it's not Lima, but it is something, I guess. It's not the most attractive place in Peru to go, but with their stable situation, I think it's fair enough for them. Personally, I don't think it's. I think they're in a fine situation. But anyways, we spent 10 minutes already, and I didn't expect to spend this long on one team. But let's go to the rest. Now, there's only 2 other rumors I want to talk about. Let me just get it up. The other 2 rumors I want to talk about are Mianto Huancayo and Carando Tulou. Now, Mianto Huancayo is apparently a done deal. I'm not sure if it's exactly true, but it's apparently a done deal. I think if Yuya continues to perform as poorly as he has this season, then I do think Mian is a good signing. But the problem with Huancayo this season, the main problem is they only have one player who could score goals, or at least on a consistent basis, and that was Neumann. Mian scores goals every so often, but he's not one that you exactly looking to score goals. He's the one who's going to create all the chances, which is kind of a problem, I think. Now, what do you guys think of this signing? I don't have much else to say. I'll go with Viz first.
I don't know. It's a little too early. I was complaining before we started the pod. Honestly, I don't know if I have any strong opinions. To be honest, I was complaining before we started the pod is that we're starting these rumors way too early. I mean, in theory, the tournament hasn't even ended yet. We have semifinals and finals to go, and back in the day, we would have a few weeks of rest and peace before we went into all of this. So I'm just one name or two names doesn't really. I have a hard time making a mental picture of a whole new team based off of that. So I think I'm going to refrain in general from trying to make any very strict predictions, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And Peter, what do you think?
Yeah, very quickly. Mian is coming off back-to-back career seasons when it comes to goals. I think he has 25 goals in the last 2 seasons with UTC. So he's kind of shown more of a propensity to score, while maybe not consistently like a Neumann level. Someone maybe kind of in that next tier who can be kind of a secondary scorer. So plus he's experienced. He's been in Peru for 5 seasons, I think, going back to when he first arrived, I guess, in 2014, I want to say. So, frankly, it's a good signing based on experience. He's improved year on year since arriving to Peru. So, Huancayo needed secondary scoring. They might have gotten it in Mian. So, I think at the moment it's an astute sign.
Yeah, absolutely. He does score every so often, so it's not like he's goalless like Yuya. Yuya never scored ever. But I think Mian does have a more goal scoring prowess in him than Yuya does. And Yuya can play on the wings as well, whereas Mian could really only play centrally. So, yeah, and the last one is Carando Tulou. I think Carando's better off going to Garcilaso because Garcilaso, 1, is in the Libertadores, and 2, he's more of an altitude player than Lau because in Ecuador, he hasn't scored many. He scored 1. I mean, I know that's not saying much because Ecuador has a much different and much better league than the Peruvian league does. But I do think that he's more of an altitude player, and I think that he will do better at Garcilaso. What do you guys think?
I would probably agree with that. He obviously left Garcilaso after 2017 because of the fact that he was just bagging in the goals. He was scoring a goal every other game. Got the move to Ecuador. And while he hasn't started consistently over there, which I think is part of the problem, you have to wonder if maybe taking him out of the elements that maybe made him such a strong player to begin with in Peru, will he be able to do it at a bigger club like, say, Lau even, especially with all the pressures that come with it and the fact that, as we were mentioning off the camera, Brian, you probably won't get paid on time either, and that can kind of weigh on you mentally for obvious reasons. So I can understand why they're doing it because he does have that, even if it's just 1 season, but or even a couple seasons of pedigree of success in Peru. It is a slightly risky signing to make, especially when there are potentially other options for them. But then again, maybe there aren't based on the financial problems that they have.
Before I go to Viz, I like to think that a good market for Peruvians to sign, maybe not the local players, but foreign players in general, is the Bolivian league because they're very similar. They're 2 countries that are very related. Firstly, they're good friends, both of them. They both get along. But other than that, it's the league in terms of the sporting part of it. The league has gotten a few foreigners already. Both have similar altitude levels, unless you go to Oruro or something, which is 4,000 meters above sea level. But other than that, it's similar. And if you think about it, Carlos Neumann was top scorer there once, and Bernardo Cuesta also came from there. I think he was at the strongest, if I'm not wrong. But when Peruvians have bought players of the Bolivian league, it's been relatively a success. It's worked out well. So I think that's not a bad market for players to look in. But anyways, I want to ask Viz on what he thinks of this Carando Tulou. Do you think better be moving off to Garcilaso, which has also been linked to, or do you think Lau is the right destination for him?
I think that Real Garcilaso should really try to push to get him. I mean, to get him back. I think that Real Garcilaso once again has placed itself in an international slot, and they were close, yet it was not enough for them this year with what they had in Libertadores. So I mean, we would have to look into the details of how to make him fit into the team, obviously. But I think that it would be a pretty good idea. Someone that's already has experience playing there and playing in altitude, and that's always something good. And aside from that, he's also beloved by the fans in Cusco. So I mean, that's always something that an aggregate something or other. Because Carrando going to La U, I mean, is he supposed to be helping Dennis or replacing Dennis, or is he gonna be fighting with La Bandera? Like I don't know. Like I don't really know how that would work. I think that La U has other options at the moment uh, regarding who they're gonna get back after the break. So therefore, I don't see that as a for sure move for Carrando yet.
Yeah, I'm not too sure on that one, but I would like to see him back in Peru. That's the main point I'm trying to make. Now let's move on to the semifinals. Alianza versus Melgar. That's been confirmed about a week or two ago. It was definitely not confirmed before this past match day. They've already confirmed that this past match day was just to determine that final Sudamericana spot, which Binacional got, and the final the Clausura winner, which is kind of glorified, to be honest. It didn't really matter much. So Melgar versus Alianza. My favorite is Melgar. I said last week that they were going to sweep the floor with Alianza. I no longer think that because Melgar is not exactly in the best form, but I still think they will win. I still think Melgar is going to beat Alianza. Not sure by how much. I think in Arequipa they're going to win pretty comfortably, but the leg in Lima is going to be a little bit tough. So, what do you guys think, Viz? What do you think of this leg of this match? What are you expecting, and what are you hoping to see?
I think I would agree. I think that Alianza Lima has to try to do the best that they can with their leg of the semifinals at home. Beating Melgar by 1-0, kind of Bengochea style is not really going to be enough. Especially when you're going to go to Melgar and you're going to have to face a team that we know, even though might be going through a little bit of a rough patch, has such a deep bench that they can always throw a wild card in there that's going to change the game in their favor. Aside from the Melgar fans being, pushing really hard when Melgar gets to this kind of stage in the tournament, and also just altitude in general. I can recall Alianza Lima, for example, defeating Ayacucho in a very tough battle at the beginning of the year. Something that altitude-wise was even tougher than Arequipa. But of course, it's been so long, and I just don't feel like there is the same chemistry right now. It seems like we see a different starting 11 from Bengochea all the time, and there's not. I don't know. I just something just tells me that it's a little bit off. And which is again part of his strategy and part of why the fans criticize him so much. I think I would agree that we're probably going to see for the third time in 4 years a Cristal Melgar final.
Before I go to Peter, I would like to just correct you on one thing. Bengochea does change the starting lineup most of the time, but Melgar is already getting worse at that. At least in the last few matches where they're experimenting, but they don't seem to have a set 11. Like they have so much, but like you said, there's such a deep team that it's kind of hard to have a set starting 11 because they have so much depth. They can play any team. They can play 3 teams and they can still get results. So it's kind of difficult. And it kind of bothers me that this Hernan Torres is doing so poorly with I still haven't made out if they're playing ugly but well. I know I've already made that out with Alianza. I know they're not playing well at all. They just get lucky. But Melgar is a bit different. I'm not really convinced with them yet because I'm not sure if they're playing ugly and winning. I want to say yes because this manager has experience. He got to the semifinals with Millonarios in the Copa Sudamericana. He won the Clausura with Millonarios, and he's the manager who got promoted to the America de Cali, which is no small feat considering how long they've been. They're sport boys. They've been on the bed for a long time. So that's kind of disappointing me that he's not doing as well. But again, I'm not too familiar with him. That might just be his style. I guess I'll ask my friend Simon Edwards after this pod is done. So Peter, what do you think on the question I asked Viz earlier, and what do you think on everything else?
Well, like I hear you guys loud and clear, and logic dictates that Melgar is the favorite, but like Alianza is so weird this year, right? Like obviously they experienced that really weird start in the Libertadores, really slipped up in the summer tournament. And then kind of after that, they had their chances to win both the Apertura and Clausura, but let it slip through their hands. And yet here they are in the semifinal. They're like a cat. They have 9 lives, and they're on life number 4 or 5 right now. But they keep getting the results, and their form is actually quite strong right now. They've only lost 1 of their last 7 games. Is it convincing all the time? No, it's not. But Alianza, despite the fact that they did lose the previous 2 meetings against Melgar, they generated quite a few chances. Mauricio Afonso has 4 goals in his last 6 games. Alianza, don't forget, a lot of that squad has played in big games and had the challenge of being like, the champions elect or have played in the Libertadores group stage. Some of those Melgar players are obviously experienced as well in their own right. But you kind of can't look past that. And I think the fact that a lot of people, I think, are kind of looking past Alianza and thinking, well, now Melgar has the better squad. They play the better football. They have the home advantage. I just feel like, and this is simply just a hunch, this has nothing to do with analysis or anything, I just feel like the more we doubt Bengochea and the more we doubt Alianza, the more I feel like they could actually end up advancing to the final, which would be insane. And also, don't forget, Bengochea might be leaving after this year, so maybe the players will want to, at least win 1 more match for him or keep the season going 1 more week or 2 more weeks for him, just as like a final swan song of sorts. So it's funny. My head is saying Melgar is the logical choice, and then my gut is saying Alianza is going to surprise us again. So one of those two will obviously be right. It's just a matter of whether it's my gut or my brain.
I'm hoping they don't make the final because you guys are all expecting the Bengochea final meltdown from me, which it's not going to happen even if they advance. So let's get that out of your head.
That's part of the reason also why I want them to win, by the way, FYI.
Michael, you're hearing this, Michael. That goes to you too. We know final meltdown, so forget about that. Berlata won't even be in the final, so that let's start with that. But I do think Melgar are going to win. Like I said, I once thought they were going to sweep the floor, but like Peter said, Linz is so weird because they don't even play well. Like one thing is playing ugly and not playing well, but Alianza have so many clear weaknesses in their squad. Exactly. Like they can just get away with it. In the Libertadores, they can't. And speaking of the Libertadores, I think it would be a bit harsh to judge them there too because Palmeiras semifinal of the Libertadores, Boca are in the final, and Junior in the semifinal of the Sudamericana, and have a good run to get to the final as well after being Santa Fe. So it is they got a very tough group, if we're being fair. They got a very, very tough group. Even if they were atrocious and put no fight at all. If they got someone like, I want to say Táchira, then maybe they would have done a little bit better. So
well, they did not first
Crimea River.
Don't forget that. Crimea River, ha. Well done.
What did you say, Crimea River.
That's good. No, I was saying saying that they did actually have some fight in that one match against Boca at home, but also, I mean, Boca wasted so many chances in that game. It wasn't even funny. So
yeah, absolutely. And it wasn't even Butron. I mean, Butron was like for the first 16 minutes. I was there. I remember what happened.
That's right. Yeah.
It was weird, but. Anyways, do you think any of these two teams have a chance against Cristal in the final, judging from what we've seen? I'll let you go first, Peter.
Yes, I think they do. Mind you, Cristal, I mean, we all saw. I mean, they just roll over Sport Boys, and I think Mario Salas was not at all pleased at the situation. Sorry, Sport Rosario. That's what I meant to say. Yes, Freudian slip. No, but I mean, they've so-called warmed up nicely, I guess, with that 8-goal performance. Mind you, a couple starters weren't there, but they are rested. Melgar, I think, or Alianza, whoever happens to win, might have the advantage because they have played 2 crucial games in the build-up to that final. But I mean, Sporting Cristal have the best defense and the best attack, and just overall the nicest football in the league for a reason. They've been basically consistent the entire year. They've got the depth, at least the starting 11 depth in most areas. You could maybe argue Johan Madrid has not been great for a few months, and maybe Jair Cespedes is not the most consistent player, but generally speaking, very, very strong. So if I had to pick one, Melgar, but even then, I still think Cristal are pretty significantly favored.
And what about you, Viz?
I don't know. I'm still gonna put all my cards in Melgar. I think that 8-0 win and the fact that they rested a bunch of people during that too, I think that makes him feel probably a little bit more confident than they should. I think it's somewhat of an empty confidence, considering that this whole clausura has been kind of up and down for Sporting Cristal. I mean, they luckily for them, they had enough points just from the other 2 tournaments that, like, even now there are some like 11 or 12 points ahead in the aggregate table from everybody else, which is something
points.
that they also complained about. Say, oh, we had 12 points. We're better than everybody else. Why do we have to play this final? And that's something that we can argue another day. But just because of kind of the fumble that it's been their clausura, and the real surety to me that like Melgar possesses, I still think that this is Melgar's year. Honestly, to me, yeah, I wouldn't be that surprised if Melgar take it, and I believe that even if they tie both the games, there's going to be a third match to decide the champion, and I can see Melgar still having enough energy to go for a third match and taking it all the way.
All right, well, let's move on to the questions. We are going to talk about the thing we weren't going to be talking about, Viz, because we got a question related to it. So, Peter, let's kind of rapid fire through these questions because we do have a few others. We do have a few other things to discuss. So let's answer one by person. So you choose which one to go first, Peter.
All right, and Brian, take your own advice, please. Abel Gamarra at Avalenda81 asking us, does the Descentralizado format reward the best team of that year? Cristal were helped by the format in 2014, and they might end up empty-handed in 2018. So, Viz, seeing as how you are the one who kind of teased it, you can answer this one.
Yes.
Okay. Empty-handed, the real definition of empty-handed is Sport Boys, I want to say in 2001 or 2002, they got over 100 points in the season. They didn't even make it to Sudamericana or Libertadores that year, right? And they beat everybody else, right, because of the tournament format. So therefore, it's not necessarily empty-handed. Sporting Cristal are still going to be in the Libertadores, and they should be fine in Libertadores. I mean, they seem to be wanting to plan ahead, and they had plenty of time to prepare themselves. So hopefully, it won't be another capietazo in any way, shape, or form. So it's not like they're completely walking away empty-handed. Yes, I personally am an advocate of the Bundesliga / Premier League format, just everybody against everybody, double round robin, and call it a day. And as such, if you see it from that perspective, then yes, it is unfair that they beat everybody by 12 points and then they still have to fight it. But who knows? We're all hoping that with 18 teams and with a new restructuring from the Peruvian FA of the whole tournament, things will be a little bit different next year. But Yeah, I mean, it's got the Peruvian football is like a saint, you know. He giveth and he taketh away, so it's okay. If anything, they're gonna be fine. I'm sure that they're gonna be fine.
All right, Peter. Next
Yes.
question.
All right. Also, pointing out on that same point, just very quickly, I believe Serie B in Italy actually has a cutoff in terms of like the promotion playoffs. Like if the next team, like I think if it's the third place team, basically the highest seeded team of that playoff is more than like 10 points ahead of the fourth place team, then that third place team gets automatically promoted. So maybe the Peruvian
That
league
would be
system could adopt something like
interesting.
that.
Yeah. I mean,
So that
Alianza
maybe that
Lima
would be
had
cool.
something like that last year, right? They won all the tournaments and then the
Yes.
final. So
Yeah,
similar.
exactly. Yeah, potentially. Okay, so the next question from Sportsfan at Sportsfan315 asking what player can change the balance of power, I would assume in the league, if he changes teams for next year. So, Brian, I'll give you that one.
What do you think he exactly means by balance of power?
Well, like maybe, like which team could become a title contender, which team could, go from like, say, like an Ayacucho, like a, relegation scrapper to Sudamericana, that sort of thing.
Okay,
Basically
so
the biggest
what was the
gap
question
in
again then?
performance.
Because, like I said, I have a very bad short-term memory. How was it
Yes, you
worded?
do. So like which player could you see changing the
Okay.
balance of power?
Well, it kind of put me on the spot there. I think let's put Ayacucho in perspective, like you said. I think the Preciado move is going to be very good. Just Preciado, let's not put in Bogado on there because Preciado is easily a Sudamericana contender player. I guess I can put it best because he when he joined Unión Comercio, that was the moment where they were really going to save themselves to a drop because he was a lot better in a team like Comercio, and he played for Sport Huancayo, did pretty well with them. Some people criticize his run at Alianza, but I thought it was a bit better than some people thought he was. And I don't think he's a bad player. I think he's a very good player for this league. And for a team like Ayacucho, I think he works well. And as for the other teams, we already saw how Herrera has balance of power there.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a hard question because you don't see the top players from each club, the top three plus Melgar, kind of move within each other. The only exception I can think of is Ruiz in the last few years. But otherwise, they don't move between the three. So it's kind of a hard question to answer.
Yeah.
Maybe Avila, if he comes back and he joins one of the weaker teams like Municipal, or Ivan Bulos, who's worked really well for Municipal. He's impressed me so far. He's kind of silenced me because I was one of his biggest critics. So maybe that's one of the examples. But yeah, it's kind of a hard question to answer because there's a lot of common denominators.
Yeah,
so Peter, what's the next question?
Okay, so this one is probably right up Christopher's wheelhouse. So sports fan again asking, can you see a scenario where teams combine their revenues in order to have more balanced distribution of money? So Christopher, what do you think about this?
By combining their revenues, is he saying something kind of like MLS?
MLS, Premier League, pretty much any league where like all teams basically get like the same cut of the money, a same cut of the revenues.
Unfortunately, Peru's still too much of a third world country for the teams to think collectively. And even when they do think collectively, it's only for them to try to get some kind of advantage over everybody else. So unless the federation stepped in and they declared something along these lines, I don't really see them doing something like this. Now, with that said, the biggest source of revenue for most teams is TV deals right now. Just because honestly, we don't have that many fans going to the stadiums, and the big three get the big sponsors, and then everybody else kind of just gets whatever sponsors they can find. And as far as I understand, TV deals are actually pretty fair. So even if they don't pool their revenues together and then divide it equally, I mean, honestly, Cristal would never do that. Cristal or another serious club like Melgar would never do that. But even if they don't pull all their money together, you can somehow argue that they're still kind of getting the same amount of money each because of the TV deals that they sign with the one person that has the rights for all the teams, right? the one company that has the rights for all the teams, called Peru.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
So this one is probably kind of both in your wheelhouses. Speaking of wheelhouses, sports fan again asking, what second division player can you see make the step up next year to potentially earning a national team call-up? Maybe if you don't think a national team call-up, let's say maybe becoming like a breakout star in the first division. So I'll let both of you answer this. Just give me like a quick name and then a quick explanation as to why, and then we can move on to the next one. So
All right.
Brian, I'll start with you on
Yeah,
this.
I'll go first. Pedro Diaz. I've been raving about him over the past while, and I'm going to be talking about him in a little bit actually when we talk about the final. But yeah, I think he's going to be the next national team keeper after Galese. I think he's outstanding. I think he's taken a similar path as Rivadeneira. He started in the Copa Peru. He played the Finalissima 2 years ago. He actually played at Sport Rosario. He played for Racing Huamachuco, and then he took the rise because Manucci were clearly impressed. And yeah, I'm not sure if he's a Trujillano, but he's from La Libertad. I know that much. And now he's playing for Manucci, and if he gets promoted or not, I think he's going to Cesar Vallejo maybe next season, or he stays with Manucci if they stay up. And I think he's a very good keeper. He's only 20 years old, and yeah, he's outstanding. I have a lot to say about him, but I'll save my thoughts for the final talk. What about you, Christopher?
Well, I'm going to go with a Cesar Vallejo player, someone that I've been fairly impressed with these last few weeks. Alvaro Medrano, 23-year-old from Callao, who scored 2 goals in the semifinals, and he seems to be in pretty decent shape. I would expect him to come up with Vallejo if Vallejo end up in the first division next year. But he also would be a pretty decent signing for almost any team in the first division. I think it's a kid that has plenty of potential. 23, it's not like old and tired. there's plenty of life still in him, and so far, like he's been in first division clubs like Municipal and Juan Aurich in the past. Clubs that kind of started low and kind of have consolidated, Juan Aurich at one point was pretty well consolidated, mid-table up, as Municipal is right now, mid-table up. And so, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see him in a first division team. I don't think he's going to, be the next Nene Cubillas, but obviously I think he could make a pretty decent difference in any first division team.
Yeah, Medrano actually has already played in the Primero for Juan Aurich, and he actually did quite well. So I think with a more mature Medrano, I think he can do a bit better than he did in his first stint. So that's not a bad pick. And Peter, do you have any other questions?
Finally, this one's a fun one to finish it off. Let's just get quick predictions from each of you on this one. But friend of the show, in fact, potentially future panelist, at Teacherman Joe, asking us maybe make some way too early, quote unquote, predictions about next year. So let's kind of go around the table, make one prediction. Doesn't matter whether it's the league winner or who maybe qualifies for continental competition, whatever you want it to be. So I guess we'll go, Viz, we'll go with you first, seeing as how you were the last one to wrap us up. So,
oof. Okay, I actually believe that Juan Aurich's chances to ascend to the first division this year are getting pretty thin. So considering that there's a good chance that Vallejo, Manucci, and Cienciano are no longer going to be in the second division tournament next year, in my opinion, then that would mean that Juan Aurich would probably fight it off with Alianza Atlético de Sullana. So I think I would expect Juan Aurich to have a pretty good second division campaign and potentially come up next year.
Okay, Brian.
Was Joe asking for segunda, primera? I'm confused. I'm sorry.
Just anything Peruvian football related.
Okay, yeah, that's fair enough then. Okay, for primera, I've already kind of made my predictions. I think Ayacucho are going to make the Sudamericana. If they keep reinforcing, I think they have to make a few more reinforcements to the defense and their goalkeeper, because their goalkeeper has not impressed me too much this season. Maybe Biasanti comes back. I think Biasanti might stay at Cienciano, but it's a possibility. We don't know. He's like what Bogado is to Comercio, or Bogado is to Comercio. I think that's what Biasanti is to Ayacucho. So he could come back. for sure, but I'm not counting on it. I think he's going to stay at Cinciano personally. And that's my earliest predictions. Like, it's kind of hard to make predictions at this point, but from the rumors we have so far, I think Ayacucho is the most viable prediction to make to reach the Sudamericana, or at least fight it out. And Peter, what do you think?
I agree with that. I would also agree with Christopher's on the Segunda. In terms of mine, hopefully it's better than the Sport Boys challenging for the title this year. So I'm going to play it a little bit more safe with this, but still kind of bold. And of course, this depends on reinforcements, but I'm going to say that Sporting Cristal, whether it's in the Sudamericana or the Libertadores, are going to make it to the latter stages. So round of 16 in the Libertadores, maybe get to that like round of 16 stage in the Sudamericana. I think they got a great coach. Mario Salas is fantastic. He's very insightful. He's got the team playing excellent football. If they reinforce the midfield and put some youth in there, I think they have a real chance. So that would be my prediction for 2019 if I had to make one.
All right, so I guess we can go on to the Segunda now. Now we've and let's spend 10 minutes on Segunda and 10 minutes on Copa Peru, which I think we might spend a little longer in Segunda, but yeah, this podcast might exceed barely an hour, but I think we'll keep it to a good length. So, anyways, the Segunda División. First, let's talk about the third place game, Juan Aurich versus Cienciano. I don't know if you guys saw it, but I guess you commented the context. I personally did see it. And Juan Aurich really were running away with it, but then Matias Sen got a banger of a goal and rescued Cienciano. Well, I mean, Cienciano weren't that much in danger anyways, because a friend of mine told me that Peruvian clubs aren't very good in two-legged ties, and we've seen this in Copa Peru. At least the lower leagues aren't very good at it. And I think that's been shown in the Segunda and the Copa Peru, where most of them have been turnarounds. So I personally think that Cienciano will win this tie. I think that Cienciano, with that goal and only being one goal off, I think it'll be enough to beat Juan Aurich in the altitude. I personally think they'll win 2 or 3-0. Not sure how easy it will be, but I think the scoreline will kind of lie to us. I think Juan Aurich are going to put more of a fight than the scoreline is going to look. That's personally what I think. Because Juan Aurich looked really good in Chogoyapan the other day. They should have gone in the third, really, but they shot themselves in the foot, I think. So I'll go to Vizers, our other Segunda expert. What do you think of this Viz, of this match?
Of the third place match, you mean?
Yes.
I wasn't actually that surprised when Juan Aurich, defeated the Cesar Vallejo 3-1 in the semifinals, and now they've done the same with Cienciano. I think they are a very strong local team. But then again, with considering what happened in the semifinals, I think that we're going to see a very similar scenario, especially when they go to Cusco, which in some ways is even tougher than going to Casa Grande. So, good for them. They've had a pretty decent run, considering how terrible they were in the first division last year and how well they have accommodated themselves, how well they've done in the second division. Like I said before, I expect them to have a decent season next year, but I would say that to me personally, I think it's pretty much over. Their season's pretty much over for them this year.
Yeah, Juan Aurich are definitely not one of those Copa Peru sides that get relegated and then get relegated again and then disappear off the face of the earth. No, Juan Aurich are always going to be there. Maybe we'll see a sort of Aurich Cañaña in the future, but for the most part, Aurich will always exist. I'm confident of that. And then let's ask, or I guess I can say half Chiclayano. Peter, what do you think of this?
Yeah, Chiclayano by association. Am I allowed to call myself a Chiclayano? Because I don't
Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I got permission from a Peruvian. Okay. So,
I don't listen to whatever Octavio Zambrano says. Which, speaking of, I want to tell Peter. Speaking of, Octavio, if you remember a few pods ago, we said, Octavio Zambrano criticized Peter for not being born in Peru and being born in Canada. And now that he's Independiente Medellin's manager, he wants to sign TFC's Osorio, who is a Canadian-born Colombian, which is just funny to me because that's just it's irony. It's irony. But anyways, let's go back to Peter.
Yes, I consider myself the motivator behind that transfer rumor. Anyways, in terms of the match itself, look, Viz said it well there. I think Juan Aurich, I didn't expect them to have as good of a season as they did. I figured they'd kind of be in like the playoff conversation the entire year and maybe end up finishing as like the 7th or 8th place team. Ended up doing a little bit better than that. And they had a very strong campaign against the teams above them too. I mean, they only lost 1-0 in Cusco, I believe, earlier in the season. But I think the fact that their defense just, especially in the playoff, they haven't just been able to minimize the big chances. I mean, it happened against Cesar Vallejo in the previous round. They let them score first. Of course, well done to storm back and eventually win that first leg convincingly. But then they just collapsed. I just think that they're still a little bit too young. It's kind of evident against Cienciano as well, who are probably a little more experienced. Plus, they obviously got the massive advantage hosting the second leg, which they should be able to get the job done. But like Christopher said, probably one of the 2 or 3 teams that will be competing to get promotion next year. So far, it's a fantastic foundation they've built. Hopefully those young players progress, and hopefully they keep them too. Although I imagine someone like Campodónico will probably attract interest from other teams in the first division.
Yeah. Campodónico, I wouldn't say it would be wise to stay, but it would be cool if he did it. Because that way he can like establish himself as someone who would help Outreach get back to this Primera, because he's a Chiclaya on our birth. So that'd be pretty cool. But anyways, now let's talk about the final. The first leg ended 1-1 in what was supposed to be Manucci's home, because Cerro going to play the return leg at Casagrande. Casagrande, not Casablanca. I don't know why I kept calling it Casablanca on Twitter. But it was a full Mansiche, and Manucci really did not look that good, if I'm honest. I thought Vallejo looked a better team. They were kind of edging it, but they were getting more chances. And Pedro Diaz was outstanding on that. He was saving left, right, and center. And he was making some really good diving saves as well. Like I said, this kid, watch out for him. He's the future. He's amazing. Which goes to show you don't always have to play in a developed youth program to be good. I mean, you can play in the Copa Peru, and then you could still make it. I mean, sure, it doesn't have as high level or as high quality programs, but talent doesn't always come from how well you're trained. So talent can be natural sometimes. So yeah. Now I think that Manucci are going to lose this personally. I think Vallejo are going to get the job done at home. I mean, they should, but I still think Manucci are going to go up via the repechaje, and I think they're going to do what they need to do. I think Vallejo will welcome back. I'm going to welcome them back because they've established themselves. I have no idea what happened in that last season. They made a number of mistakes that led to the relegation. The first one was leading Navarro to leave. That was their biggest mistake of all. And it kind of sucked when I saw them to get relegated. But now that they're back, I think they're a welcome addition to the Primera. And I hope Manucci and Tiziano get the job done as well. But I would personally prefer Manucci to go up straight now, but I just can't see it. I think Vallejo were better on the night. That Rafael Garcia is a really good player. He was very dynamic in the midfield, good deliveries into the box, and creating plays from the midfield. So he's a driving force, and I think he's very good. So I'll let Peter go first this time. What did you think of this?
Yeah, pretty well put. I think apart from the opening 20 minutes, this was all Cesar Vallejo. I think Del Solar realized very quickly that the way to kind of contain Manucci was to press them up high, especially on the wings. And then that pretty much shut down the attack for most of the match. And if not for Pedro Diaz, as you mentioned, Brian, I mean, this could have been a very convincing win in the end for Cesar Vallejo. But luckily for Manucci, they got the late equalizer. Pedro Diaz stood on his head, and they kind of have a bit of a fighting chance. Now, I think because of the fact that they got that late surge, maybe that gives them momentum going into the second leg. But look, if Cesar Vallejo replicates that game plan and they keep peppering Pedro Diaz with shots, you have to assume a couple of those are going to eventually sneak their way in. And no matter how well Pedro Diaz plays, because I don't think any one man, whether it's Diaz or David De Gea or whoever it happens to be, can withstand that sort of pressure for 180 minutes and obviously 90 minutes as well.
And Christopher, what do you think of the game?
Well, if anything, I talked a little bit on my preview regarding Osnar Noroña, and I think obviously Vallejo was much better than Manucci, but still within what Manucci was able to do, I think that Oroña had a pretty decent game. But yes, Vallejo very much figured Banucci out early on. And I think that we can all agree that that penalty was just a magic trick that the ref got from who knows where. I mean, honestly, but at least it's going to make for an interesting final. It's going to make for an interesting final. Um, but yes, I would agree that Vallejo, just like it did almost 10 years ago to the date, is going to do the exact same thing this time around and just win the tournament and return to the first division, where they've had decent campaigns and in a way where they shouldn't have left uh, the place that they shouldn't have left. So yeah, I think I agree. I think that Vallejo has a better team. I think that, like you said, it was Manucci's goalie really who Pedro Diaz who really saved the day for them, and I would expect them also to be moving to a a new club next year if Manucci's not able to retain him. Also, a shout out, I guess, to Breno Naranjo who came in the second half there. We remember his name.
Yes.
We still remember him. He didn't have that great of a day either, but I also think that he was pretty decent for the time that he was on the pitch. Yeah.
And classic Chimo del Solar, shout out to him. Classic Chimo del Solar for getting furious after that final penalty. It wouldn't be a game with Chimo del Solar without that. So
agreed.
Yeah. Anyways, let's go to the last bit of the podcast, and I can't believe we managed to fit all this in. It's incredible, but we're going to talk about the Finalissima, which I'm not sure how much Peter is going to be able to get into the mix unless he's researched, because I know he's been a bit busy during that time. But yeah, me and Christopher should have not a lot to say about this because we only have 10 minutes. But yeah, we'll see what Peter has to say about this. So I want to have one thing very clear. I do not want Molinos and Pirata in the Premier League. I really do not. Because you're going to have Uda, Cinciano, Alianza Universidad, Manucci, and we're getting these who are never going to fill up the stadium. And it's just incredible. Juan Aurich will feel hard done by once they see that, because they are not a serious club. They are a club that's just there to make us laugh. And it makes me, it's incredible how they have the money and whatnot, but I really just don't want to see them in that. They have a good social media team, in fairness, but social media teams don't win you games. I think there'll be another San Simon. So
a social media team that doesn't know the meaning of copyright law? I don't know.
Okay, well, Molinos and Pirata are a good team, in fairness. They won the first game 4-0 against Santos. Shame Santos didn't have Pelé and Baba up front, but I think that Molinos and Pirata are going to lose tomorrow. Yeah, they're playing tomorrow against Alianza Universidad. That's going to be a very open game because both teams are very offensive. And but Molinos and Pirata made a clever signing. They signed Jorge Esparza and Manuel Calderon. Manuel Calderon, if you might remember his name from the Under-17 World Cup about 10 years ago. I think he's a very interesting signing for them because that's the sort of signings. Those two signings, a forward and a defense. That's kind of what kind of wins the title, this kind of title, anyways. Because they didn't need much firepower, in fairness to them, but in terms of defense, I think that getting the best defenders of the tournament is the way to go here. As the saying once said, offense wins you games, defense wins you championships. So we gotta always keep that in mind. And and as for the other game, UDA versus Alianza Universidad. Alianza Universidad clearly had the more quality, but I think UDA were more tactically disciplined, and I think that's what won them the game. They had a good goal, and then the second half they were just getting all the chances they could get and countering as much as they can. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Peter first. I'm guessing you didn't look at some of what happened. What do you have to say about this so far?
Well, first of all, the fact that there isn't like a striker or somebody called Davy Jones on Molinos and Pirata is really disappointing to me. Little Pirates of the Caribbean joke there.
Patchy the Pirate.
Patchy the Pirate.
By the way, I just want to say rest in peace, Steven Heidenberg. Thank you for all the laughs.
Yes, there you go. Shout out to the SpongeBob creator. It's funny because both of these games pitted teams against each other. It was either one game where you didn't want either team promoted, and then it's the other two teams playing each other where, you know what, you kind of want them to go up. Molinos El Pirata and Santos being probably the two teams you don't want to see going up. But my God, man, Molinos, like, we've been joking about this since, like, what? I think basically since the national stage started.
I've been joking about Molinos El Pirata for 2 years now. I was one of the first people to introduce the badge to others. I remember, because I remember 2 years ago nobody was talking about them, and this year they got to the national stage and they were a lot stronger than 2 years ago. So now everyone's jumping on the bandwagon, but which makes sense. I'm not complaining about it. It makes sense.
Well, of course. I mean, I just don't see a scenario. Maybe if they play UDA, possibly a team that might be able to contain their attack. I think they're going to get. They're at least going to get into the repechaje and then therefore.
For sure.
Fight for promotion at the very least. And I think it's going to happen. And the fact that they're going to be potentially in professional Peruvian football is nuts to me. So hopefully it doesn't happen, because there could be a lot of unwanted attention, let's say, if that ends up happening. So let's hope that does not occur. No offense to any Molinos fans if they're watching and listening.
If there are any that are questioned.
If there are any, yes.
If before I go to Viz, I just wanted to say that I guess I can't be too worried, because you got to remember the story of that Brazilian club, Esporte Clube de Patos, which has Donald Duck on the badge. And I think
well, not anymore. I believe they got rid of it. Yeah.
Well, so Viz, I'll go over to you now.
Anyway, so first of all, to me, the game between Alianza Universidad and UDA was the final. And to me, almost UDA beating Alianza Universidad is like a mini Maracanazo, it's a mini Miguel Grau-azo, if you want to put it that way. Because honestly, what has gone Alianza Universidad so far into the tournament is that they have experience in the team, right? They have some names that are a little bit older, a little bit more experienced, that understand the system, understand Peruvian soccer. Because honestly, they were seated 22nd in the first stage of the national stage. They were 22nd, right? And then you have UDA, number 1 seed, only conceded 7 goals in 10 matches, right? Conceded 3 goals in the first 6 in the first stage. I mean, honestly, they have skill. They have skill, and they have a well-organized team. And they did just that. They went out there, and honestly, I thought that Alianza Universidad was just going to trample them over, but they created chances for themselves. They scored 1 and then held on tight for the rest of the game. Kind of reminded me a little bit of a Peru-Argentina situation, where the smaller side even had more chances than Peru had in that game. It was really fascinating. I really enjoyed that game. The Molinos El Pirata defeating Santos, I think it was pretty obvious. I think that Santos is the weakest team out of all the 4 in the Finalissima right now. So I wasn't that surprised. Now let's just really hope that UDA can take care of them so they can get to the first division, and then we can see Molinos El Pirata wither away, and see the Black Pearl disappear to the horizon and never come again. So that's kind of my hope. But yeah, I'm actually very, very, very impressed with UDA, and I think that they have now created really, very realistic chances for them to take this title.
Yeah, and I will have to disagree on one thing. I think that the final is going to be in the last match day with UDA versus Molinos El Pirata, because Molinos El Pirata can afford to lose tomorrow. I would say 1 goal, because they have a superior goal difference by 3 at the moment. So if they win against UDA, they're basically in. That's even if they lose tomorrow. So I think that, but I think I want to say that I think that tomorrow might be a tie or a narrow Alianza Universidad win. I think Alianza Universidad, with the much space they have, which Molinos El Pirata are going to get more space than UDA did, because UDA are more tactically disciplined. Then Molinos have more quality than UDA, so I think Molinos are going to open themselves up a little bit more, and I think that that's going to be the deciding factor. I think that Alianza Universidad will win narrowly, personally. Maybe a 2-1 or a 3-2. It might be a high-scoring game because both teams are going to allow chances. That's the way I see it anyways.
One
Uda should beat Santos, but again, I don't think it's going to be a steamroll. I think it should be a steamroll because Uda need to take advantage of the goal difference as much as possible. If Uda win by 3 and Molinos lose by 2, then I think I can cut Uda in the Primera División. And I would like to see it because I've been stressing all this on Twitter, Facebook, but Uda are a very traditional team. Perhaps, arguably, the most traditional team to never play in the Primera División.
Aside from Garcilaso.
You can make a few cases, like Viz said, Deportivo Garcilaso, obviously. There's Miguel Grau, but there's not many others. Most of them are playing in the Primera. Atletico Grau is playing in the Primera. Sportivo Huracán is playing in the Primera. So Uda is definitely one of the teams that's missing. And the other fact I wanted to say is there's 4 regions in Peru that have not played Primera División football and 3 that have never played professionally. Amazonas, Madre de Dios, Apurimac, and Huancavelica. Huancavelica is where Uda are from. And about Apurimac, they've never played Primera, but they've had professional football, which they have right now with Cultural Santa Rosa in the Segunda División. So they have played in the Segunda División. They have played professional football, better said. And yeah, I think that this is this is an exciting time. I don't think even if they get promoted, I'm not sure if they're going to play in their stadium. I think they're going to move to Huancayo at least until they get a better stadium, a better pitch. But after that, I think the next year if they stay up, then they'll be able to play in the ground, which it's not much of a problem anyways because Huancayo is a lower altitude than Huancavelica, so they won't have some by only 400 meters, mind you. So I think that's going to be it won't be too much of a problem. If they move them to Lima, then that's a different story. But I think if they moved into Huancayo, which is where they should go, especially because the sponsor right now is Caja Huancayo, at least I think it is anyways. And they should be playing there next year if they get promoted, which will suck. I would like to see them in Huancavelica. They fill up every single game.
Does that mean that if Alianza Lima needs a stadium, they're going to move to Pichincha then?
What?
Here, just one more comment, just to reinforce your point. Yeah. I think that Santos could be finding itself in a situation similar to Tahiti in the Confederations Cup. It's going to be like it's going to be really a race of who can score the most goals on them. That's kind of what I'm seeing. Because just the way that things are looking with the other 3 teams, it could potentially come down to who scored the most goals against Santos, gives them the better goal difference.
Kind of like in Copa America against Haiti. I think that's a better example.
No, but Tahiti, like 7 goals, 11 goals.
We almost got screwed by only scoring 1 goal on Haiti. If we had scored more, then maybe we didn't even have to beat Brazil. So that's kind of where I'm going at. But no, about that, I don't think it'll be like Tahiti because in the Confederations Cup, whoever scored against Tahiti was frowned upon. Everyone booed if he scored against Tahiti. Yes, I'm pretty sure Peter remembers that. Everyone frowned upon in the stadium. It will be like the unholy grail if he scored against Tahiti. Like everyone will hate you if he did it. And yeah, they didn't care. But it was a funny and offensive. It was kind of offensive towards them as well because they're obviously not professional players. But that's not what this podcast is about. So we're gonna end the pod there. We have exceeded an hour, like I said, barely. And my name is Brian Birdie. I'm B_Bird98 on Twitter. Christopher, what is yours?
Well, I wanted to make a shout out to Mario Salas and thank you for diverting our attention from the terrible Copa Libertadores final to real issues like Sport Rosario players getting paid. Right? They should get paid for every goal that Sporting Cristal scored on them. Anyways, my Twitter handle is VIZ_FC.
And Peter, what about you?
So you can follow me at Galindo PW. You can follow the show and the website at Peru Waltz. Subscribe to us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and YouTube. And as an ode to Molinos El Pirata, I wanted to play this.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I don't want to get lost in Disney, Peter.
Anyway, that is all. That is all from me.
That's all, folks. Okay, so this is the Peru Waltz team, and we are signing off.